Good evening, boys and ghouls. You have tuned into the Killer Countdown, brought to you by Backlot 605. Each week, two horror fanatics rank the best that the horror genre has to offer. Grab your popcorn and your kitchen knife and get ready for the Killer Countdown.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to today's groovy activities. I'm one of your hosts of the Killer Countdown. I'm Casey. Join with me on the internet is my co-host, Blake Ginithan. What's up?
What up? How are you?
I can see you this week.
I can see you. Ooh, didn't we see each other the last time?
No, you were just a faceless voice in the void.
That's that. Well, when you get married, that's what happens to you.
Is that what it happens?
That's what happens to you.
I'm just a faceless void.
Yep.
Blake, how you doing?
Man, I'm having a great day. As I had a big family FaceTime event today, and we're all talking about the weather. And I said, like, "Oh, are you getting outside today?" And I'm like, "Well, as an introvert would say, it's a great day to open the blinds and watch some movies."
Yeah, I have the blinds open, the windows open. It's nice here in South Dakota, so that's my going outside. It's
about time it was nice in South Dakota.
Yeah, no,
Oofta.
let's just stay this way because South Dakota, we're in a scary time, a scary place here. So
I think we're on the end of that. So
we're nearing the end of it. We're in the news right now, not for good reasons at all, but.
No.
Today let's keep it.
Sioux Falls is never going to be in the news for anything good. Let's just be real about that.
That is true. You are 100% correct on that. But let's keep things scary, but in a fictional realm.
Yeah.
Because today's topic, Blake, we're going to be talking about the Evil Dead series. And now you may be questioning us, first of all. Hey, guys, there's only 4 movies in this series. How are you going to rank them? Well, you know what? We are, because we're going to call this a mini countdown where we're going to talk about series that don't necessarily have the 8 films criteria like we've done with Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Child's Play. We've done a bunch of series, and we got to include some of our personal favorite series that only have a couple of entries. We have to talk about them on the show. And so this will be a mini countdown where we'll rank the entire Evil Dead series, including, Blake, Ash versus Evil Dead.
Yeah, I don't think there's a timeline where I want to live without that series. So we have to include it.
We have to. Yeah, we'll jump into that series right before we get to the countdown. But let's start with our recent watches. Do you want to kick it off, or do you want me to kick it off since I have?
You know, I can kick it off. I only have one that I watched recently. I wanted to see this in theaters, and it just doesn't happen. It just didn't happen. But I finally got to watch the new Kristen Stewart movie, Underwater, and holy hell, this is my movie. It's about a crew that works on this underwater drilling apparatus, and immediately, like literally within the first 2 minutes of the movie, like something happens to where the station's being flooded and they're running for their lives. And as the movie progresses, you find out that there are some nefarious things out in the water that are after them. And this movie is great. What I love about it, as I mentioned earlier, it starts immediately, and it not for 1 second is there a point where you're like, man, they should really get going with this. Like it just goes and goes and goes and goes. It's a pretty ferocious pace to the movie, but not to where you're like you have no idea what's going on. Like it's like the characters are on a timeline. Like they only have X amount of minutes of air or X amount of minutes before something happens or crashes or implodes or falls apart. So the movie is there with you're with the movie the entire time as it propels towards the finale. It's just one incredible sequence after another where Kristen Stewart has to like think 2 steps ahead to not die. The one movie that I kept thinking about during this was Danny Boyle's Sunshine, which is another incredible science fiction / horror hybrid that unfortunately no one really talks about anymore. But these 2 movies together would be a great double feature. Yeah, I highly recommend Underwater. Loved it.
Yeah, I've been hearing very, very good things. I'm gonna probably check it out here this weekend after we're done recording. Because it's on. Just came out this week, right? On VOD to rent.
Yep. I think it came out Tuesday.
Yeah. So I'm gonna definitely check that out. I've been looking forward to it. Again, like you, I wanted to see it in the theater, and then life happened.
Yeah.
Recently, I kind of did what you did in a way. I was trying to catch up on some recent watches that I had missed within the last year or so. So yeah, one of the movies everybody's talking about this movie right now in the horror circles, and it's on Netflix right now. It's called The Platform.
Okay.
And this is so basically the basic setup of The Platform is that it's in this dystopian futurescape, but basically this is a multi-story prison. There's 2 inmates on each floor of this prison, and every day there's this gourmet of food, just endless amounts of food, you believe, and then it starts at the top floor, works its way all the way down. So if you're on the top floor, you get like 10 minutes to eat or whatever. So the people on the top floor, obviously, they're gouging all the food, they're absorbing all of it up, leaving less at each floor until there's just none left in the bottom levels. And this movie just did nothing for me. It did not work at all. I don't know why the internet's freaking out about it, because I know people are talking about, it's a perfect time for this movie to come out, and it's about how the upper class, the higher levels, take from the lower levels. And I'm like, yeah, but we've seen that before. And
yeah, go watch Parasite if you want to.
Go watch
get that.
Parasite. Go watch any Bong Joon-ho movie. Go watch Snowpiercer. Like this, the very similar concept to Snowpiercer, except it's a building and not a train.
From my understanding of Platform, I have not seen this yet. I will probably not watch it for a while, considering everyone I've talked to has been pretty lukewarm on it. Is that it's so heavy-handed with its ideas and thematics, and that is a complaint I've heard from literally every single person, every review that I've read. I don't know. A friend of mine sent me an article that said Netflix's new movie, The Platform, is so scary people are unable to sleep. And he goes, "Is this true?" And I'm like, well, I mean, you could make the argument for any horror movie that a person has a phobia of or finds scary. Like I remember when that movie. Did you ever see Veronica, the Spanish movie?
Which I like. I like that movie.
Yeah, I did not like it, and it's precisely because
someone said it's the scariest movie ever made.
Everyone was saying, everyone was like, people can't sleep. This is scary, and I was bored to tears with it. But
there's a we'll talk about it with a certain movie in our countdown that also makes this mistake in its marketing. We'll talk about that. Okay. But yeah, The Platform, it would have worked great. I said this in my review on Instagram. 20 minutes and it would have been a great short film, but because it gives everything away right away. It's literally like, yes, it beats you over the head with, this is the message, like, listen to it. And it was.
Did you watch the Denis Villeneuve short film that I posted in our group chat or our Slack chat?
I didn't know.
Watch it.
I'll watch that, yeah.
He made it about 10 years or so ago, and it's very similar to The Platform, I believe. So you should check it out. But yeah, I'll get to The Platform at some point, but I'm not going to rush out after everything that I've heard about the movie.
I would not recommend watching it at all, really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would recommend skipping it because you've seen the movie, you've seen Snowpiercer, you've seen Parasite. Like, it's the same movie.
Yeah.
Let's get a little more positive here. I know you watched this movie. I don't remember your thoughts on it, though. But I recently watched Joe Bagos's latest film, VFW, from It just came out on VOD here a few weeks ago. This is basically it's about this group of former Army vets, and they are hanging out at this VFW, and this girl runs into the bar carrying this drug that mutates people, and it's the most euphoric drug ever. And basically, these drugged out mutant punks storm the bar and try to take back what's theirs from these war vets. Yeah, I love this movie. This movie was so much fun. I really loved Bliss as well, and this would make a great double feature with that. Obviously, from Joe Bagos. Yeah, you can obviously tell he's a big fan of those 70s, 80s style movie. Even bringing in actors from those movies, including Stephen Lang, William Sadler, George Wendt, Martin Kove. David Patrick Kelly's in this, who I didn't recognize right away. Like, oh shit, it's the guy from the Warriors. Yeah, this is just a blood-soaked, bloody film that doesn't really take itself too seriously. It's not trying to give any message. It's just a straight-up 90-minute invasion film that's a ton of fun.
Yeah, I liked it, not as much as you did. I actually think it's like a little long. And I know it's only like 120 minutes, 130, or I'm sorry, an hour and 20 minutes, or hour and 30 minutes. But with a movie like that, I feel like you really need to make sure that the impact of what you're doing is like succinct and powerful, because a lot of movies that have that one location thing going for them, like it tends to get a little
monotonous.
Tedious. Yeah, a little bit, and I sort of felt that with this movie. Now, I will say that he does spend a good 15, 20, 25 minutes kind of setting things up before, but for me, I could have used maybe another 5 or 10 minutes chopped off. But otherwise, I really can't disagree with anything you said. I love Bigos' style. I love this grain he just like floods his movies with. I love, and I love his use of neon colors that he couples with his grain. I love that he loves. I love like the gory violence that he uses. Like I like that he doesn't shy away from stuff like that. And it was great to see all these old guys kicking butt. I will say, you said that there was no like message or to it or anything, but it did feel a little bit like he was saying something to the effect of like, screw the hippies, I want these older guys to kill the younger generation off. That I got a little bit of that, but not like to the point where it turned me off, but it felt like that a little bit, not as much as, it wasn't as bad as it was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where like it was literally F the hippies and we're gonna burn them alive. And so but yeah, I really enjoyed VFW. Our boy Graham Skipper,
That's a great scene in this movie.
yeah. And I love the bad guy he's just evil. He's just a bad dude.
That's the one thing about the movie. It knows exactly what it is, which I get.
Yeah.
Same with Bliss. He just knows what tone he's going for.
Yeah.
You don't spend a whole lot of time with the villains. It's literally sets up, hey, this is what the drug does. This is the guy that created it. That's it. That's all you know about this guy, and he's a bad dude. And you're like, sure, why not? But then you hang out with the vets, and you're like, yeah, I just like hanging out with these guys. These guys are pretty fun.
I love that Martin Kove is kind of getting this late career resurgence, and I mean it's obviously due to the fact that they rebooted
Karate Kid,
the Karate Kid, which is fine. It's great to see these guys who are kind of known for one thing, decades prior, kind of just get their second due. So it was nice to see him, and he has a big role in the movie. He has a pretty pertinent subplot in the movie. So
yeah, he like when you look at this cast, I mean, Stephen Lang is the one that's going to stick out the most for more recent moviegoers, because he was in Avatar, one of the biggest movies ever, but besides that, the rest of these guys haven't done a whole lot. sticking out in the mainstream that much, and it's
Yeah.
cool to see them pop up in these movies. My only not diss, but I wish George Wendt would have done a little more, kicked a little ass. That would have been fun.
Yeah.
Not to spoil the movie, but there is a funny joke, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Pretty sure he's sitting at the bar where he sat at the bar in Cheers. In the same the same, you know how a bar, there's a curved spot on the bar. He's sitting on the corner.
It's very possible. Yeah.
Cheers reference in VFW. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's VFW, available on VOD right now. Quickly, some of the other ones that I watched from last year as well. Both of these from 2019, both very similar tones. You could probably mistake them pretty easily. The first one, Haunt, directed by Scott Beck, Brian Woods. They wrote A Quiet Place. It's about this group of college students that attend a haunted house, but it turns out that it's actually run by a bunch of crazy maniacs. And
sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's a fun time. Yeah, this movie didn't do a lot for me. It has a fun, it's set on Halloween, has the fun Halloween vibe to it, but it's just missing something with it because I didn't really connect too much with any of the characters. They try to set up the main girl to have a past and something traumatic that happened.
I don't need that to have to. To me, that's just filler. But
yeah, it's set up something in the present that makes it work with these characters. Like if you look at like Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street, why Jamie Lee Curtis and Heather Langenkamp work is because they're kicking ass in the movie and you like the characters already. You don't need this flashback backstories to them, but I mean, it has a sort of a Halloween vibe to it, but I needed a little more of it. Because the only real characters you get to hang out with are the 5-6 leads in this movie, and that's it, and they get to go to the haunted house. Again, I get it's a low budget film, probably made by these guys after they made some money off A Quiet Place, which is good, to see, they'll get some money off a mainstream movie and go make a passion project that they have. Yeah, it's all right. I wouldn't recommend watching it right now like I did in April. I'd recommend it in October. But yeah, that's Haunt. It has a great cover of Rob Zombie's Dragula at the end.
Oh, I'm sold.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. The other one I watched, a very similar vibe, was called Trick. So this movie was from last year as well. Patrick Lussier, the director, did Drive Angry, My Bloody Valentine 3D, two movies that are a lot of fun. This movie is not. The one thing I give this movie, it is a slasher film, but it doesn't take the traditional stalk and slash. It's more of this guy's running at you and gonna stab you 100 times and brutally kill you. Which is it's a nice pacing, different pacing to add to a slasher movie, especially for like today's generation who probably find Michael Myers boring or would find Black Christmas really boring.
Sure,
this would probably work for them a lot more than it did for me. The editing in this movie is a little wonky. It's a little choppy. It felt
a little Jason Bourne-y.
A little Jason Bourne-y, a little Rob Zombie. Not the best. So yeah, I can't really recommend Trick. I mean, if you're gonna watch it during Halloween time. Jamie Kennedy's in the movie, and he's in the movie. That's about it.
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, he's there.
I haven't seen this yet.
Yeah. Between Haunt and Trick or Treat, I would recommend Haunt over, or not Trick or Treat, just Trick. I would recommend Haunt over it, but yeah, if you're gonna watch them, go watch them in October.
Okay, I'll put them on my list.
All right. I got 3 more here. I want to leave the one that I'm excited about last, and I'll quickly touch on the other 2. Couple recent watches from the 90s for me. The Last Broadcast. Have you ever seen this?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so this movie came out 1 year before Blair Witch Project. Again, many people believe it's the film that inspired that, even though, I mean, they came out within a year. I highly doubt that the filmmakers of Blair Witch saw this and rushed out to Blair Witch, but who knows? But yeah, this is basically about this paranormal television crew that is in search of the Jersey Devil. And so, you know how in Blair Witch, it's literally just taking the camera footage and that's the entire film?
Mm-hmm.
This is taking the footage, but telling it in a mockumentary style. So you have talking heads throughout the movie saying, hey, this is who these guys were, or I went to class with these guys. And yeah, it tells its story that's route, which was working for me for the most part, because it was a good mockumentary. It wasn't necessarily scary, but the layers that it was peeling throughout the movie were really working for me until the final act. And our buddy Corey Jacobson mentioned this on Instagram too, that the final act is really bad. It really falls apart. Doesn't know where.
I saw his comment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the film just didn't know where to end. It felt like they had this really good concept, and using the found footage format before it really blew up, and they just didn't know how to end it. Is what it really felt like. So I'd recommend the last broadcast. Again, be a fun Halloween season film. But yeah, if you're into those early 2000s, late 90s found footage films, this is one for you. The other one I have, and I think you've seen this one, and I think you recommended it to me at one point. 1996 is The Dentist.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's a fun movie directed by Brian. I love using this stuff. Yeah, this is basically about this dentist who finds out his wife is sleeping around, and then goes to work that day and begins seeing visions of her sleeping with another man, and uses that to torment his dentist patients throughout the film. And that's pretty much what the movie is.
Yeah.
It's a ton of fun.
Yep.
Great use of camera work. I like whenever they put the camera inside someone's mouth and the mouth like opens wide and you see the dentist coming in. Like it works really well. There's some great, like, I don't know even how to describe, like, teeth gore.
Yeah, it's very cringy stuff.
Yeah, like he takes a drill to someone's tooth and like
Yep. Yeah.
shaves it down to the gums.
I've only seen it once, and I think it came out in that. We said 96, so I must have been 13, 12 at the time when I saw it. And yeah, I saw it like 2 or 3 in the morning. It's not a scary movie by any means. It's a really fun, straight to video B movie with I mean I'm a big Corbin Burnson fan, so I really love watching him and anything he does. And so it's a nice evil turn by him, and he has a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, he's
like
hamming it up.
And like I said, a lot of the quote unquote attacks in the movie are, I had to look away because teeth and fingernails, man, that stuff gets me.
Yeah. So yeah, if you, I mean, you don't see a whole lot of teeth gore. So if you want to test that out, go for The Dentist. I found it on Tubi for free, so it's a fun, easy 90-minute watch. I haven't watched the sequel yet. I don't know if you.
Neither have I. Have not. Nope.
All right, last one here. Night of the Hunter, 1955. So
movie sucks.
Yeah, it's worse than The Platform. With recent news that there's going to be a remake of this film, I figured it was high time to finally watch this movie. Now, Blake, you have watched this movie as well.
Yeah, I watched it maybe 10 years or so ago.
Yeah, and we briefly talked about it, like in our group chat with the rest of the boys. It truly is.
Like how this movie got made back in the mid 50s, I have no idea. Like this movie should be rated R today. You know, it's just I have no. It's years ahead of its time. Years.
Yes. Because if you look at what movies are coming out in the 50s for horror films, it's monster movies. It's the Blob. It's the mutated creatures. It's those type of schlocky horror films, and then you get this movie about this charismatic, devilish preacher, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, and also at that time, Robert Mitchum, he was like a leading man. He was the good guy in all the movies, you know, like, and for him to do this maniacal, evil human being performance just came out of nowhere, and I think that's what makes it even more scary is the fact that I sort of like equate him as like the Tom Hanks of that time, where like he was America's dad, everyone loved him, he was the hero, the sheriff who would save the day, and for him to do this is quite a turn.
Yeah, could you imagine? Like, can you imagine anyone trying to do this today with someone like Tom Hanks' stature?
Well, yeah, I mean, Tom Hanks sort of did it with Road to Perdition, but he was a good guy. He was just a killer.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of a performance where, well, I guess it would kind of be Daniel Day-Lewis doing his Gangs of New York thing. But I don't know. I can't think of another like really fun actor that everyone loves doing a very, very villainous role.
Just being he's just an
Yeah.
evil person.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want to spoil too much in case people haven't seen it. It's in the Criterion Collection. I'm not 100% sure if it's on the channel.
It's on Amazon Prime right now.
It's on Amazon Prime. Okay,
Yes.
so you can go to Amazon. Oh yeah, you did your video yesterday. You can recommend. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
on Amazon Prime. I would recommend if you haven't seen it, go watch it immediately. It's a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's just imagery in the movie that I cannot believe that Charles Lawton got away with. There's one shot. I'm not going to reveal who it is, but there's a shot at the bottom of a lake that, if I remember correctly, the movie kind of just cuts to it, and there's no like big lead up to what it is, or like a big reveal. It's just like there.
There it is.
And it's just like the most. It's terrifying. Like you as a movie viewer, you expect like to be taken through the motions and emotions of a story, but you don't expect something like that to happen to two young kids who have already gone through a great deal already. If I remember correctly, the movie does not end on a good note, right? I mean, it ends on a downer. Does it or not?
Yes and no. I mean, the whole movie's kind of a downer. So
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot of light in this movie.
Yeah. It's a doozy. It is a.
Yeah. For me, I honestly, and you can maybe throw this out better than I can. I cannot think of another movie with this style or this type of tone to it, because it feels like this southern, like it feels like, imagine like if Tom Sawyer had a little sister and this crazy ass preacher shows up and is like, "Tell me where the money is, or I will kill you and your entire family."
Yeah. I can't. I mean, if I put on the spot, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. But yeah. I mean, I haven't seen two movies that can replicate the impact and style of Night of the Hunter. And it's worth noting that Charles Lawton it was his first movie he directed, and it was his last movie he directed. Yeah. So it's a special movie, and if you have somehow not seen this,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this would be like my 5-star recommendation, movie level recommendation. I mean, it's a masterpiece, and I don't use that word very often.
Yeah, I had to look up Charles Lawton after, and I'm like, God, this guy looks familiar.
Yeah, it's a big actor back.
Yeah, he was in The Old Dark House.
Oh,
which is a favorite of mine.
Favorites, yeah.
Yeah, he's fun in that, and to see him go on and only do one film, unfortunately, and different times back then, I'm sure.
Didn't he pass away soon after?
I would have to look that up, but also like, if you look at the movies of that time and what people were expecting out of a film, this movie probably didn't do a whole lot of.
It probably scared a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it probably when people saw it, they're like, yeah, it's really good, but like we can't have you make another movie after this.
Yeah. He died 7 years after this was released, so not long after.
Nope.
All right. So yeah, that was my last one and my highest recommendation for The Night of the Hunter.
Yeah. That's a great movie.
All right. So
Very
should we
cool.
jump into the game?
Let's do this. Before we start, I just wanted to ask you, what was like your first introduction to Evil Dead series?
My first introduction, um, couple of things led to me watching, because I watched the first Evil Dead first. I don't like jumping into. I know some people, they've watched the sequels before the first. I always like to watch the original first, but I don't know. I was probably junior, senior in high school. Grew up on the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. Big influence on my film watching there. But then in high school, me and my buddy were finally getting into horror movies, and we would have these marathons. We'd run to Walmart, buy like the 4-pack of Nightmare on Elm Street movies and the 4-pack of Friday the 13th movies, and we'd both buy like whatever we needed to complete the series. And then on a Friday, Saturday night, we just sit and watch the entire series.
Mm-hmm.
And so after we finished, Nightmare and Friday, we did Halloween. We were trying to figure, well, what's next? What else can we watch? And obviously Evil Dead. Simple Google searches will lead you to Evil Dead, and that's kind of where we came across it. So we bought then I don't know if the remake had come out yet. I can't remember. It was probably about the same time as the remake. But yeah, we watched Evil Dead 1 and 2 and Army of Darkness all on the same nights. And yeah, it's we'll talk about the movies, but yeah, we were blown away by the first film. That night. I really remember that reaction that everybody had, just because we were blown away by all like the weird camera angles. The sound design in that first film is just remarkable. But yeah, that was my introduction to Evil Dead.
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar introduction. I actually saw Evil Dead 2 first. I was over at a friend's house, and I believe his brother had rented it because he was 17 and he could rent it. And so we were told, we were told it was essentially a remake of the first one, which is not true at all. But so it was like, it doesn't matter if you watch this one or the first one. So we watched.
It kind of doesn't.
Yeah, so we watched Evil Dead 2 first. And I mean, I was at that point where like movies were still like just really fun to watch, and I hadn't explored the idea of like, there's an idea behind this. And so I thought it was okay. I thought it was fine. I wasn't into horror much back then, and then I eventually watched Army of Darkness, and then I watched the first Evil Dead after I discovered like movie forums online that were like, you need to watch Evil Dead. It is, and I mean, countless people told me it was the greatest horror movie ever made, and I still hear that too. So my whole thing's a little roundabout with this series, and then I had would you call it like a coming to Jesus moment with the remake, where I didn't enjoy it the first time, and then rewatching it actually just fairly recently in the past few months, I've really enjoyed it. And of course, we'll get to this eventually as well, but I'm a pretty big fan of the TV series as well.
Yeah. One final thing before we get into this. Again, when I was watching these, I was kind of just like, yeah, movies are fun to watch, just like you were. And then really the one movie where I'm like, man, I really want to know more about this and how they did this was the first Evil Dead after watching it. And really a big inspiration for me and wanting to eventually make movies or do something in the film industry was because of this movie, because it was literally Sam Raimi and his friends went to a cabin and made a damn movie.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool and really inspiring, and especially for back then. And yeah, we'll talk about the film, but we'll explain the rules here since we're only doing a mini countdown here. We are doing 5 picks in this. Blake, you have given me the number 1 pick, and we decided we're going to kind of mix up the rules since there is 5. Since I have the number 1, Blake will have the more picks. So Blake will have the picks 5, 4.
Yay.
I will have the 3 and the number 1. So basically, I guess we didn't say this. Do you want to have stabs in this, or do you want to just go with the flow?
Up to you.
Should we just let's keep with the game. Stabs are an option.
Okay.
1 stab per person. Again, unlike most countdowns, if we stab it, it will go higher. So
That's basically what
it'll
we're
have
doing
to be on
is
the list. Yes.
right. Yeah, I'm cool with that.
All right. Did we have any other rules?
I don't think so.
All right. So we are including Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead the remake, and Ash versus Evil Dead, all 3 seasons of that show. We will combine into one pick. All right. So Blake, I will let you kick it off since you'll have the number 5.
All right, cool. Well, with the 5th pick in this countdown, first movie that's going up is the movie that I have seen the least. I have fallen asleep every single time I've watched this movie. I don't think it's a bad movie. I struggle to get through this movie every time I watch it. It is the 3rd movie in the series. It is Army of Darkness. Ash finds himself working at S-Mart. You shop smart, and he all of a sudden a witch shows up, and he is fighting this witch, and he is teleported back into medieval times, and he fights demons back with the knights in shining armor. And like I said, I don't think this is a bad movie by any means. I find the plot of this movie stretched very, very thin to where maybe it could have been like a really, really great 30 or 45-minute movie or something like of the sort. It takes the Three Stooges aspect of Evil Dead to maybe like a too ridiculous of a height. There are some terrific gags in this movie. I love the skeleton, and I still quote this line today, who says to Ash, "I've got a bone to pick with you." But ultimately, I think this is where this series is running out of gas, no pun intended. I'm going to put it last, number 5.
Yeah. I think we have the opening mistaken for the ending of the movie.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, because it opens with the end of Evil Dead 2 where he's getting sucked into the portal and then ends up in the medieval times. And the movie ends with him going back to present day, and he's working at the S-Mart, and this witch shows
Oh my God. I apologize. I thought that was the opening of the movie.
No, it's the end. The end of Evil Dead 2 is the opening of Army of Darkness.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit of research on the movie, and I believe this was the idea for number 2, and the studio said no. I'm guessing because of the budgetary reasons. But there is a shot in the second movie where the doctor, I believe, is explaining his like a family vacation or something, and a car pulls up to a castle and all that. So it kind of hints at that in the beginning. Raimi, and I wish we could go back in time and change this aspect of this whole thing. Raimi wanted to call the movie The Medieval Dead, and I thought that it's the most badass thing and like a clever thing. And I feel like as a studio, you gotta, like, how do you not go with something like that, but go with Army of Darkness? Like, it's such a great play on the title, and I wish Raimi would just release it as The Medieval Dead. But
yeah, I'm with you. I think that's a much better title, and
yeah,
I'm curious as to why they came up with the Army of Darkness title, because even when you look at the poster for this movie, it's not from the director of Evil Dead 1 and 2. It's from the director of Darkman.
Yeah.
So I think they're banking off that more than Evil Dead.
That is probably what it was.
And then thus the name change to Army of Darkness.
Yeah. I think this movie's fine. But like I said, I struggle to get through it every single time I watch it. And the joke stuff that works so well in Evil Dead 2 runs out pretty empty with me very quickly.
Yeah, I like Army of Darkness. Again, I said it before we started recording, but I'll say it again here. I could argue for any one of these at the number 1 spot on any given day.
Sure.
But as of right now, it's probably in the lower 2 or 3. But yeah, I like this movie. It's a ton of fun. Definitely a different tone from the first two movies. I think all three have very distinct tones for the film that they're in. Bruce Campbell is probably his most charismatic out of all three films that he's in this movie.
Yeah, okay.
He's actually given someone to. I mean, Evil Dead 2 is probably my favorite of his performances in these movies, but he's not really interacting with a whole lot of people in that movie, unlike this one where he's deemed a king and actually gets to work with that. I love Evil Ash. Evil Ash is a ton of fun. I like all the mini Ashes. I think it's kooky. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's for me was like the part where the movie just jumped the shark a little bit. But.
Yeah, I can see that, but I knowing who Raimi and Bruce Campbell grew up on like the Three Stooges and the Ray Harryhausen movies, like
right,
combine those two, I think that's a ton of fun, and
yeah,
it kind of feels like Raimi is associated with Evil Dead and being this horror guy, even though it seems like Evil Dead is kind of the anomaly in the series, where that's an actual horror film. Because that's all he had the money to do was a horror film, and then going forward, he made comedies after that, and kind of put the horror inside of it as well. But yeah, I'm fine with Army of Darkness here at number 5.
Cool.
All right, number 4.
This is a little tough for me, but I think at number 4, I'm gonna put the TV series Ash versus the Evil Dead. I truly do love this series. I love that the shows are only 30 minutes long. It's like this perfect dose of gore and comedy, and Ash and his new friends. So we pick up and Ash is working at S-Mart. This part I am getting right. And of course, the Book of the Dead enters his life again. And it's just this ongoing, literally like an ongoing series of events where Ash has to, save the day. And what I love about this show is that it's not watered down for today's audiences. Like Starz really just said, go do what you do to Raimi and Bruce Campbell. And they made a follow-up to the Evil Dead movie series that is just as funny, just as full as much gore and blood. And this series is a lot of fun. I will admit I have not finished it yet. I believe I have 2 or 3 episodes left. And I can see why it got canceled. The 3rd season's not as good as the 2nd and 1st seasons. I think the 2nd season is a masterpiece of this, whatever it is, this horror comedy blood shockorama. Like there's a sequence in a morgue that is like if we're ranking scenes out of all the movies and TV series, it's got to be top 3 sequences in the entire series. I won't give away what happens because you have to see it to believe it. And if it were in a movie, it would probably struggle to get past the MPAA based on the content. But I love I love the reunion between what is her name? Xena Warrior Princess. I can't remember forgetting her name. Lucy
Yes.
Lawless. She is fantastic in this series. It's great to see these two reunited, where she plays this evil seductress or succubus out to get Ash and his new friends. His new friends are great. Both of those characters are really fun to watch. Yeah, this movie is a gas. Or this TV series, sorry. The whole thing is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I okay. So before we decided this, I had seen the first 2 seasons of Ash versus Evil Dead, and I had watched like 1 episode, I think, of season 3, and then just for some reason or another, just stopped watching it. Not that I didn't love the series, but some life came up or whatever it was, and then finally, when we decided on Evil Dead, I'm like, all right, this is going to give me the push to finish this series, and so I just finished the series this morning, binged watched the last season last night and today, and yeah, it's I don't want to say the 3rd season's not as good, but it feels like it was a little
It, do,
monotonous.
it doesn't have the freshness of the first. It doesn't help that the showrunner left after season 2. The guy who had the whole thing planned out, he either quit or got fired, and it really shows in the 3rd season. Like you're right, it's not as bad, or it's not as bad as maybe I was saying it was, but it definitely, like, you're kind of like, man, there's like this spirit that's gone to the show now, and I don't know what is missing. And I think it's that.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, and I think in this 3rd season, for me, it started getting monotonous because Lucy Lawless is again the villain. Where I'm like, let's freshen it up. It's time for something new. Have her join the crew for all I care. Like every series does that. Your first season, baddie joins the crew in the later seasons just because you love the actor or actress that you worked with there.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have made sense to do that. I think again, all 3 seasons are ballsy. Stars literally said, "Go make the show you want to make," and they do. I love that each episode is literally like, all right, every episode has to have Ash fighting a Deadite. That's it. No matter what episode it is, no matter the context.
Yeah,
have them
and
fight it.
All the fights are fresh and exciting to watch. And of course, they don't skimp out on the gore. Like, this is not like a please neuter it down. Like this would be a very, very hard R movie if it was released in theaters.
Yeah, and again, like you said, I don't know if some of these gags could be released in theaters.
I don't know.
There's a lot.
I don't know.
There's a lot of blood in this movie, which I mean, the series is known for that, but there is a lot of that. There's a lot of sexual innuendos in this as well. That I think
isn't there? Yeah, there's a ton of nudity in it too. I believe too, right?
There's more than is in the previous entries of the series. Yeah,
sure. Yeah, it's a very hard R TV show, and I definitely say I believe it's on Netflix. If you have Netflix, check it out. It's worth your time.
Yeah, I'll agree with you here. This is a good spot for it. I know you haven't finished the 3rd season, so I won't spoil it. But the cliffhanger it leaves off on, I'm like, man, I wish you could get a season 4.
Supposedly, it's not quite dead yet either, so we'll see.
But I mean, Sam and Bruce are talking about a 4th Evil Dead too. So who knows? I don't think the series is dead.
Yeah.
So we'll see where they can go with it in the future.
I have all my faith in Sam Raimi to deliver a 4th Evil Dead movie. So,
and maybe this him working on this new Doctor Strange movie maybe just gives him a good paycheck that he can help produce a new Evil Dead movie. Maybe
there you go.
So yeah, all right. Number 4, Ash vs. Evil Dead. So I have the number 3. Yeah, again, I think we're running into any of these 3 could be in any order depending on what day, time of the week it is.
Well, I would disagree with that, but
I'm gonna go with the one you're probably talking about here. Then
I don't know. We'll see. I do know out of these 3, I think I know which one should be here. But.
Okay. We'll see if it lines up with this. I'm gonna go number 3. I'm gonna go with the 2013 remake Evil Dead.
Okay, I'm a little surprised.
Yeah, again, Evil Dead. It is a straight up remake. None of the original characters are mentioned in this movie, besides an after credit scene, which we'll talk about. But yeah, this is all fresh new characters. Pretty much the same setup as the first film. 5 college students head out to this cabin, and they read from the Book of the Dead, and shit starts going crazy. But the difference in this movie that adds another element to it, and I think this is how you do what I talked about with like the movie Haunt, where you give your main character something in their past they're trying to work through. In this movie, this movie actually does it, but you're actually not relying on flashbacks or anything like that. You're relying on dialogue and how the characters interact with each other. Yeah. And this is about this girl who is trying to fight sobriety, and she's done it before.
She's not fighting sobriety.
She's what?
She's not fighting sobriety.
She's trying to find sobriety. She's trying to fight addiction to find sobriety. There we go. So again, she's gone through this before. She's OD'd from this, but now her friends and her brother are trying to get her back through it. And again, they actually give for the first time really in the series, they give Deadites that they're actually a symbol for something. But then again, it doesn't shy away from any of the gore at all. The first time I watched this movie was on like HBO or something. Me and my buddy were in a hotel and we were looking for something to watch, and Evil Dead was on. So we're like, all right, let's watch it. And I was just blown away by how much blood is in this movie. Unlike where the original Evil Dead and Ash vs. Evil Dead goes with the gore, where it's kind of funny, this I feel every time they do something gory in this movie. Like there's a scene where she's like hiding in this corner, and a saw comes through and just scrapes the top of her leg, and I'm like, oh, like you can feel it every time something happens. And like there's a part where this guy sticks his hand up and it gets hit by a crowbar, and his like 3 of his fingers bend sideways.
Oh, I'm like cringing just even hearing it.
Yeah, you feel every hit in this movie, and yeah, I love that they do not shy away from it. There's plenty of homages to the original Evil Dead series, but it's not reliant on that at all. It's definitely its own thing. But again, if you want to say it's part of the Evil Dead universe, it definitely can fit in that as well. And again, as far as horror remakes go, I would say this is near the top of horror remakes of all time, really.
Yeah. As I said earlier, I didn't like this the first time I watched it, but I watched it recently, and I truly had a ball of a time watching this. As you said, the violence in this is quite gruesome, and not in the fun way. It's there are some scenes I just could not watch in this. The actor Lou Pucci, oh my, poor guy, just every step of the way. Just, I mean, he gets nails shot at him in his eye. I mean, just this guy goes to the ringer. Well, everyone does. I'm with you all the way. It's the Federico Alvarez, who this, I believe this is his debut film, film debut,
first feature film. Yeah.
Takes what was a very fun and scary horror movie. He turns it into someone's struggle to fighting addiction. You know, like there's like you said, the Deadites, they have like the symbolism to them, the evil demons that we fight, fighting our addictions. And the end of the movie is this. It's maybe too literal, too on the nose with what it's trying to do, but it doesn't matter because it's done so well. The final sequence is literally raining blood. This movie it's gloriously violent. And that's not to say it's not funny. There's some funny moments, but this is a much more dark and mean movie than any of the other movies in the series. And yeah, I'm glad I rewatched this. I'm glad I gave this another shot, because I was wrong about the first time.
Again, I like how it kind of it does pay homage to the original series, but then again, I think it really subverts some of the things you're expecting in this. Because like if you go into an Evil Dead movie, yeah, you're expecting a dude to pop up with a chainsaw arm and a boomstick and kick some ass, but in this one, your Ash, the brother character, he dies. Like he's not the last dude to survive. He's dead, and then you're stuck with the sister character. Jane Levy's really good in this movie as that character. And then I just love how this entire time she's kind of the evil, and then at the end she's the one kicking ass and you're rooting for her.
Yep.
Again, there's one thing we talked about with marketing this, and I want to bring it up. I hate the poster for this movie.
Yeah.
It's her standing covered in blood and says the most terrifying film you will ever experience.
I actually like the poster. I think the reason why I didn't like it the first time was because maybe I'm just being too easily duped by these marketing schemes where I'm like, oh, okay, there's no way this is that scary. And I can understand why, because this is kind of coming out at a time when there really weren't a lot of like extremely violent and just mean horror movies. And this one is, like I said earlier about Underwater, it's ferociously paced. Like it just zips by, but it's just violent and mean, a lot of this. And I wonder if that is why they did it, because it is so ferocious. But I do like the poster.
I do too. I just don't like the huge font. This is the scariest thing you'll ever see in your entire life. Like, no, it's not. Again, I can see why a studio markets it that way. And you wouldn't say this is the most gruesome horror movie you ever seen. You know, you'd use terrifying, scariest, whatever. Keywords. But yeah, and again, this sets up that there is a possible universe to be had in the Evil Dead universe, where Bruce Campbell does show up at the end, looks at the camera, and just says "groovy."
Yep.
So I would like to see them combine the two one day.
Someday, hopefully.
All right. So then number 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think from here on out, we just know it's going to happen. I'm going to just pick the first Evil Dead, which I watched it last night and this morning. This movie is, if anything, it is a brilliant look at how a filmmaker just had nothing and made this incredible experience. There's shots that are out of focus, like literally out of focus. There's shots where like you can tell they're using like a light, like right next to the actors. It's very cheaply made, but like you kind of don't care because it's such the filmmaking is so good. There's a lot of like Dutch angles in the movie where the camera's tilted at a character, or the camera's like zipping through the forest like really quickly, and we'll get to it with Evil Dead 2, but like it goes even quicker in Evil Dead 2. There's just a lot of things that make the movie fascinating to watch. Raimi fills his movies with these little like really interesting insert shots of like blood dripping, or I don't know what they're called, but when the clock is like clicking, counting the time, and it's counting back and forth.
Yep.
You get these really interesting perspectives. Blood on inside of a light bulb. I have no idea how they did that. A projector shoots on, and blood drips onto the lens, and so like it's projected on the wall where blood's dripping down the wall, and it's such a really interesting movie to look at in terms of style, and how a guy just had ideas and put them onto the screen, even if like it's very like very raw and very. I mean, I hate to, I don't want to say it, like I think it's unfair to say that it's very poorly made, because it's not. But like I said, there's shots that are out of focus, and that matter. But like there's an energy to it that you can't deny.
Yeah.
And the fact that it works for 80 minutes is a miracle unto itself. And I totally get why this is considered one of the greatest movies of all time. And me saying that it's raw and student film-ish isn't a knock. It's just like it's the truth, you know. And don't let that scare you away. If you've somehow not seen this movie, don't let that scare you away. It's one of the best ever made, but just know that those things are there. But it sort of adds to this world that Raimi has created.
Yeah, again, you can tell that this is a group of college age kids that went out and just made a movie because they wanted to make a movie. But you can tell that these are really talented people going out in the woods and just making a movie.
Yeah.
You can tell how much talent is behind the direction and the camera work of Raimi. The acting's fine. Bruce doesn't get a go all Bruce Campbell Ash until the second movie. But yeah, the camera work is what really sticks out in this movie for me, because Raimi just puts the camera wherever the hell he wants to put the camera. He's running it through the woods. It's on it's above everybody on the ceiling. Like how'd you do that? It's all the Dutch angles, like you said. He's mounting it to a 2x4 and running it through the woods. It's again, there's no. It feels like this is just breaking all the rules of filmmaking and just saying, this is my movie, how I'm going to do it, and goes balls to the wall with it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting look. Like it's like in my experiences, I feel like I saw other Raimi movies, but before I saw Evil Dead, so like I knew a lot of this stuff from like The Quick and the Dead and Darkman, all these like really quick, like really violent zoom-ins that he would do on characters. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. And then to go back and watch the Evil Dead stuff, it's like, well, okay, so he was doing this back in the day. He didn't really have the budget to make it look very
Like
slick,
yeah.
and that's okay. You know, like Evil Dead to me is like this grungy student, amateurish horror movie that just ended up speaking to a lot of people, and that's what we're left with.
Yeah, again, I watched. So when I recently rewatched the Evil Dead remake, and I popped on this first film right after, and I watched probably about 30 minutes of it before going to bed. And man, like the thing that sticks out to me every single time I watch this is the sound design for it, because I still find this first Evil Dead movie really scary, and I think it's because of that sound design, because of the way the Deadites are talking and the wind blowing through the woods and just every creak and sound of this cabin. Like Raimi really knows how to insert all this great, terrifying, demonic sound into it and into this first film here, and it really works, and it still holds up as to why people could consider this one of the scariest movies ever made.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm right there with you. I think we're both in agreement. This is the number one, and subconsciously, maybe this is why we did Evil Dead, because we didn't talk about it last week, last week's sequel episode. This is Evil Dead 2: Dead by Dawn. So Evil Dead 2: Dead by Dawn. Basically, you kind of mentioned this when you talked about your introduction to the series. You kind of don't need to watch the first one to really know what's happening.
No, they sort of explain it with a little bit of a recreation and explanation.
Yeah, and again, in Evil Dead 2, it's only Ash and his girlfriend at the cabin, played by an entirely different actress. Don't bring up the friends or anything like that.
I thought that was. I think that's why it's confusing when people think, "Oh, it's kind of a remake." It's because of that. They don't do like a full-on recreation of what you see in the first movie. It's just two of the characters that show up.
And I think they mentioned this in the Ash versus Evil Dead series, but it could be that it is a straight sequel, that Ash is just dumb enough to bring another girl to this same cabin. So I think it's mentioned, and then if not, in my head canon, that kind of works for the character of Ash Williams.
Yeah, in my head, he just got completely obliterated and was like, "Yep, we'll just go back out there. That was a nightmare or something," and then it just happens all over again.
Yeah, or I survived. It'll never happen again.
Right.
I met this chick the next weekend, and I'm going to take her out to the same cabin.
And give her the same necklace that I gave to my other dead girlfriend.
Yeah. So yeah, this movie is freaking balls to the wall, bonkers, crazy. Every moment of this movie is so much fun. There's so many iconic scenes in this movie. Ash versus his hand is still like one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It throws in all the Three Stooges slapstick comedy into this. Maybe my favorite scene in this movie is Ash and all the cuckoo clock and the deer on the wall. They're all like, he's in the weird camera angles, and Ash is like dancing up and down to this. It's so bonkers crazy, but it works so well for the tone of this movie.
My favorite scene of this is where Raimi actually makes fun of the first movie, where the camera's like out in the woods and it's like zooming and zooming, and then it cuts back and it's all quiet in the house, and then it's zooming in, it's quiet in the house, it's getting closer and it's zooming in, and then it finds Ash in the house and it chases him through the house, and it's gonna get him, and all of a sudden Ash turns a corner and the demon gets lost, and so the camera's like panning through the house and it has no idea where Ash is, and so it just goes away. And I love that like spirit of Raimi kind of having like that awareness to kind of be like, what could I amplify in this movie that was really popular in the first one, but also put a little spin on it. And I love that little thing he does where it sort of adds to the playfulness of this one where like you said, Ash bites his hand and Ash in the tool shed, and it really complements and kind of sets up the rest of the movie for what you're about to see.
Yeah. And it really sets up the rest of the series as far as where it goes with Bruce
Right.
Campbell and Ash. Like this is
Right.
the tone that they continue to follow after this. Yeah, like all the stuff. Like the first time I watched the Evil Dead series, I obviously knew of Ash and his chainsaw arm. So I'm sitting there waiting for it. And when it
Mhm.
finally happens in this, I'm like, hell yeah! Like this,
It's
it's a cheerworthy moment.
it's the birth of Ash.
Yeah,
You know, he's Ashley before that, and then when that happens, he's Ash. He's Ash. You
it's
know, like
Ash Groovy.
yeah, yeah.
One of my I don't know, one of my favorite one-liners in really any movie is in this when the Deadites like, I'll swallow your soul, and he's like, swallow this, and just sticks the shotgun and just blows their head off. I'm like, yes. Yeah, and again, that's referencing a different Raimi
Hello.
movie. So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Evil Dead 2. Do you have any other final thoughts on this movie?
Yeah. Yeah. I want to add. So I do this thing where whenever I watch a movie, I always try to see if Roger Ebert reviewed it and watch it because that guy was one of my heroes, and so he did review it. And Ebert gave it 3 out of 4 stars. For those of you who don't know, 3 for Ebert is like the entry of like when he likes a movie, like that's his lowest score for liking a movie. And I just want to read the opening paragraph because I think it really nails down like what maybe Raimi is trying to do. Quote, Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn is a comedy disguised as a blood-soaked shockorama. It looks superficially like a routine horror movie, a vomitorium designed to separate callow teenagers from their lunch. But look a little closer and you'll realize that the movie is a fairly sophisticated satire. Level 1 viewers will say that it's in bad taste. Level 2 folks, like myself, will perceive that it is about bad taste. I love that. I love that look at the movie because I think he's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Again, if people are going into Evil Dead 2 expecting a straight horror movie, slasher movie, it's not that.
Yeah.
And in the subsequent rewatches of it and figuring out that these guys like love Three Stooges, and I'm like, oh my god, yeah, they do. And you see all the Three Stooges isms in this.
Yep.
Especially even going as far in the credits to crediting people as fake shemps. All right. So yeah, should we wrap this up then?
Let's wrap it up.
All right. You want to go ahead with the list here? What we had for our final ranking of the
Oh yeah.
series.
I didn't write it down, so I'm gonna go off memory here. Number 5 we had Army of Darkness. Number 4 we had Ash versus the Evil Dead. Number 3 we had the Evil Dead remake. And number 2 we had the original Evil Dead. And number 1 we have the Evil Dead 2.
Yes, Dead by Dawn.
And just because of the rankings, I still say you go out and watch them all because
Yeah.
I'd say it's maybe the most consistent series possibly in the genre. That will be a countdown in the future, I hope.
Okay, so yeah, no matter if we're on that or not, this is the best series ever because there's no bad entry in the series. And I think if you're going off that, then I think this is the clear choice because Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite, but there's some bad ones in there. This just doesn't have that, and to have 3 seasons of a television series in there too, and you're like, that's just as good as anything else that they've done. That's pretty remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, should we round this off with some of the other movies maybe that we would recommend alongside these that kind of keep this tone or would kind of be?
Oh gosh.
Because I have 2 that I can think of off the top of my head.
That are not in the series, just like
Yeah.
I mean, you could look at Peter Jackson's early filmography, Bad Taste, Meet the Feebles,
Dead
Alive, maybe Frighteners. Gosh, what else? Deathgasm might fall into this. I know I'm missing some.
I have 2. One,
go ahead.
Well, I guess both because there's Raimi involvement in them. I would say pretty similar to, like, if you imagine if Ash never went to the cabin or to the medieval times and just hung out at the S-Mart, he'd probably be working at the same grocery store as the characters in Intruder.
Okay.
So that has a very similar tone to this. Has the Raimi brothers, two of the Raimi brothers in that
And
as
Bruce
well.
Campbell's in it
And
as
Bruce
well.
Campbell. Does have the swallow this line in the movie. And then the other one I would throw out is Sam Raimi's Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah, I thought about that one just after you started.
Yeah. I see it as it's an unofficial sequel to The Evil Dead.
I sort of do too, and I mean, I don't want to dive too much into it because I could do a whole show on that movie, but that's an underrated movie in his filmography.
And once you finish Ash versus Evil Dead season 3, I think it makes it even more clear that might actually be part of the same series.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Cool.
All right. So yeah, that was the killer countdown of the Evil Dead series. Let us know in the comments or on our social media pages what your ranking of the series is on this. And with that being said, we'll round it up with the couple of plugs that we got here. You can find Backlot 605 Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's where you'll find all our latest posts about everything going on in our little circle of horror nerds and movie nerds. That's where you'll find all of us. Backlot605.com for the latest movie news, reviews, articles, discussions. You can find this podcast and all the Backlot 605 main show podcasts on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, and you can find our lovely, lovely faces on YouTube. Blake, where can the people find you online?
Well, I'm on Instagram at Midwest_cinephile. I review movies that I watch. I also just started a new show with our buddy, who, by the way, I want to say does a great intro for our show here, Andy Heller from Fat Dude Digs Flicks. Thank you, Andy. I love the intro. It adds so much to our show already. But him and I started a show last week, 2 weeks ago, called The Criterion Break. And we're kind of just taking a deep dive into the Criterion channel and what they offer in the series and what it means to us. So if that's your thing, go check that out. But that's what I got working on.
Awesome. I listened to that first episode, really enjoyed it. I'm
Good.
excited to see what, because I'm not a Criterion guy. I'm very new to that type of cinema, so I'm going to be looking towards you two to give us some recommendations out there.
We're recording our next show in a couple of days, and based off what we watched, we're both super, super excited to do this next one. So
awesome. So go check that out. That is on Andy's Fat Dude Digs Flicks channel. You can find me on Instagram, Casey_the horror guy. I'm reviewing every horror movie that I watch. So if you want some more in-depth thoughts of some of the movies we talked about in recent watches, that's where those will be. And with that being said, I think that is everything until next time. Yeah?
Yeah.
You got it? Yeah.
I think we're good, man.
I should probably mention this because we promised a movie for this episode and we did not do it. It is Tim Burton episode. That is that'll be the next episode, guys. So it is coming. Kayla is a little preoccupied with working at a hospital during this time. So
yeah, there's no pressure for her to get this done at this time. She's got more important things on her hands. So
nothing is more important than the killer countdown, Blake. Not even Corona.
You know, as much as I love tooting my own horn, I think we're all taking a backseat to what's happening right now.
No, yeah, they're all doing very, very important things, much more than us weirdos talking movies on the internet. All right. So anyway, Blake, do you want to give us our final sign off for this episode?
Oh, yeah. Well, I wasn't ready for this, but until next time, spook you later.